The EV3 was the first in a new generation of small electric Kias. If you think that the futuristic looks suggest a step forward from the technology the brand was previously offering with the Niro EV in this segment, you won't be disappointed. Compact EVs have moved on significantly, and if you doubt that, then you need to try this car.
Kia gets even more focused on small EVs with this car, the EV3. Kia is already very serious about electric cars, and it's about to get more serious still. The E-GMP electrified platform it developed for its two most advanced bigger EVs, the EV6 and the EV9, has now been used for the kind of small electric models that will really drive the Korean company's sales forward. It's been re-engineered for 3 more compact electric cars, and this is the first of them, the EV3. As you may be aware, Kia already has a compact EV hatch, the Niro EV, competing in this space against volume electric small models like the Volkswagen ID.3 and the Renault Megane E-Tech. But that Niro is very much an EV/combustion compromise. The Niro range does, after all, also have hybrid and PHEV variants. The EV3, in contrast, has none of the design constraints of having to allow for combustion power, and as a result is a much more serious kind of electric vehicle with more range and greater cabin space, aimed at people also much more serious about the EV switch. If you're still wondering, though, why Kia thinks it needs 2 compact family electric hatchbacks selling in exactly the same segment, then you might be overlooking the fact that the Korean maker's been pursuing this policy for some time. The EV3 arrived in late 2024, just as the marque's slow-selling Seoul EV was being retired from the range. This car, though, is very different and far more competitive proposition than that one, as projected UK annual sales of over 10,000 units suggest that it should be. Some have called this the Golf of EVs. We'd simply call it a new direction for Kia. To find out why, you're going to need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test. Automotive engineers creating cars for this compact hatch EV segment are currently divided over whether those models should be front or rear driven. Volkswagen Group and Geely-derived designs, Volkswagen's ID.3 or the Smart #1 for instance, generally drive from the rear, whereas Stellantis-sourced EV, Vauxhalls and Peugeots, as well as electric Renaults and Nissans, smaller Hyundais and previous compact Kia EVs all use front-driven formats. Since this EV3 adopts a shortened version of the Hyundai Motor Group E-GMP platform that until now has only been used by rear-driven models like Kia's larger EV6, it's a surprise to find its motor still on the front axle. But rear seat and boot space would doubtless have been compromised if it hadn't been. The electric motor in use here will be the same regardless of the flavour of EV3 you happen to choose, producing 201 bhp with 283 Nm of torque. But customers do get a choice of batteries for it to be linked to. The standard range version gets a 58.3 kWh unit, giving a range of 270 miles. The vast majority of UK EV3 customers, though, are going to want the long-range version that we're trying here, which has a bigger 81.4 kWh battery that will take you up to 375 miles between charges in this base Air spec form, or 367 miles with plusher GT line trim. Either way, that's substantially further than most rivals can go, and way further than the smaller 64.8 kWh battery of Kia's other model in this segment, the Niro EV, can manage. That car's limited to just 285 miles. Few EV3 models will be sold with a heat pump though, so you might struggle to replicate its headline figures in the depths of winter. You won't be expecting a car of this kind to be engaging to drive, or at least you shouldn't be anyway. We were impressed though by the relative sharpness of its similarly platformed mid-sized EV6 showroom stablemate, but this EV3 is a rather different confection, not only because its drive, comes from a different end. A near 1.9 tonne curb weight is a lot for a car of this diminutive size, around 120 kilograms heavier than a Niro EV, which doubtless contributes to the car's disinclination to corner with much enthusiasm. But the syrupy steering feel won't encourage you to do that anyway. But the EV3 compensates with more important attributes. Body rolls well controlled, helped by all that low down weight, while cornering grip is tenacious and ride quality is excellent, even with bigger rims than the 17-inch ones we're trying here. We're also impressed by the levels of refinement. Not all EVs are as silent as they should be, but you should find this one to be satisfyingly quiet. Or at least you'll find it is until you start to be irritated by the constant binging and bonging of its drive assist systems, the speed limit element of which is fiddly to completely disable. Once you figure out how to live with all these features though, you'll find this a relaxing, journeying companion, whether the need is to commute or to cruise. Ultimate performance doesn't much matter in a car like this. A linear level of drivability is more important, or to put it another way, you don't want to be hurled back in your seat by the torque of the electric motor every time you brush your foot against the throttle. In an EV3, you won't be. For day-to-day driving, you don't really need anything other than the most frugal of the various provided drive modes, Eco. But if you do select the most urgent, Sport, the 62-mile-an-hour Sprint takes between 7.4 seconds and 7.7 seconds, depending on variant. This heavier, bigger battery version is slightly slower, while top speed is 106 miles an hour. There's a My Drive setting that allows you to configure throttle response and steering feel to your taste. The brakes are responsive and beautifully modulated as they transition seamlessly from regen to friction braking. You'll rarely have to use the actual brake pedal if you make proactive use of the effective 3-level steering paddle brake regen system, which in its fiercest setting arrests the car quite urgently when you come off the throttle. This preserves range noticeably around town, where you'll also appreciate the tight 10.4 metre turning circle, which requires only 2.75 turns lock to lock. You won't really want to be towing with this car, but if you did, you'd certainly want this 81.4 kilowatt hour version, which can pull along a tonne, double the weight of the 58.3 kilowatt hour version. Kia doesn't hold back when it comes to visual impact these days, and the EV3 is certainly divisively styled, as we knew it would be from the concept car shown in 2023. But it's fresh and distinctive, and if you like it, then you'll probably really like it. This is the latest, rather cringily named Joy for Reason interpretation of the Opposites United design philosophy the Korean maker's been pursuing for some time now. And here, the squared-off look, sloping roof and sharp surfacing are all shared design cues with larger electric models like the EV4, the EV5 and the EV9. That's a slightly different visual direction from earlier Opposites United designs like Kia's existing model in this segment, the Niro EV. At 4,300mm long, 1,850 wide and 1,560mm tall, this EV3 is a little shorter and lower but slightly wider than one of those. That height figure is a fair bit taller than most rivals, which you think would affect the aerodynamics, but despite that there's a slippery 0.26 CD drag factor. Subtle black roof rails and angular wheel arch cladding supply the crossover vibe, and there are flush-fitting door handles that are hidden in the C-pillar at the rear. The overall look works well with brighter colours. Kia could offer a few more of these than it does, and is quite distinct with trim choice. This base spec Air model gets 17-inch wheels and silver detailing on this lower rubbing strip, for instance. Above it in the range are a pair of GT line versions with larger 19-inch rims and a more black-themed body treatment finish. Whatever EV3 you decide upon, the front-end look will divide opinion. The nose of this all-electric model does, of course, do without a grille. All the cooling's done via this vertically slatted lower intake. And you'll either think the look of it to be fresh and avant-garde, or something reminiscent of an urban mobility pod. The look of this digital tiger face varies a bit with trim choice. Above the base spec level we have here, these thin, vertically stacked star map LED headlights gain a distinctive small cube illuminating graphic. Active air flaps with air curtains improve aerodynamic efficiency. The rear is almost equally unusual. This narrow tailgate screen sitting above a black trim panel linking narrow LED tail lamp strips that angle downwards into the corners of the car. GT line models also have special treatment at the rear with a triangle wing configuration on the lower bumper. Obviously, what's more important is what you can't see, like the shorter version of the advanced E-GMP platform we first saw in the brand's mid-sized EV6. And the slippery, three-dimensional underbody jacket that covers 80% of the underside of the car. Time to consider the cabin. Now, these narrow Tesla-like door handles are a little fiddly to use unless you get them in the automatically activating form that can't be had with this base spec model. And inside, well, Kia says it's tried to achieve a living space feel, though to appreciate that, your living space would have to be dominated by screens, as this one is. As with the EV9 we tried last year, there are 12.3-inch displays for instruments and infotainment, separated by a further 5.3-inch centre screen for the climate system. We can see why you might pay the extra for the slightly sportier-looking two-tone GT line interior treatment with its attractive fabric-wrapped dashboard and softer-touch plastics. The hard plastics and the more basic grey utilitarian vibe you get with this base air spec aren't particularly appealing. Further up the range, the steering wheel design's also far less ugly than this one. With the two GT line models, there's a slightly different design for this unusual upper and lower tier centre console. Those plusher variants gain a slightly unnecessary slide-out mini table which emerges from this centre armrest. There's no conventional centre stack, part of a slightly quirky approach to design here, which works better in some areas than others. You'll spend ages hunting for the drive mode switch, which hangs off a steering wheel spoke, and possibly for the start button located on the gear selector stalk hidden behind the steering wheel. But these silver strap panels on the doors look trendy. This lower centre console stowage area is supremely practical, and the hidden buttons for screen functions just above the horizontal vents are lovely, but difficult to hit without taking your eyes off the road. Thankfully, in the last couple of years, we seem to have progressed a little from designers thinking every dashboard button has to be eliminated. Here, switches are retained for essential controls like those for climate functions. Instead, the current fad is sustainability, and there's plenty of that in this leather and chrome-free interior, 28.5 kilograms of which is fashioned from recycled plastics, with recycled fabric used for the seats, headliner, armrest and floor mats. Environmental folk interested in all these eco and biodegradable materials can be briefed further on them via a QR code on the dash. We mentioned the instrument display. It's not one of those sophisticated ones that offers endless layout options and full screen mapping, nor, unlike pricier Kias, does it compensate with blind spot view camera screens springing up in the dial spaces. Instead, there are simple boxes for speed and range, separated by a central section that can show either trip data, an EV range guide, tyre pressures, a compass or a drive assist graphic. The central monitor follows the usual Hyundai Motor Group product trend of displaying its home screen either in customisable widget sections, here we've got navigation, media and EV functions, or if you swipe left you get rows of little icon boxes which include a lot of useful things you'd have to do without on most rival models, like a valet mode, a voice memo system and a section that can deliver results from your favourite sports team. Plus, this screen can link to your calendar, brief you on the weather or give you vehicle diagnostics. Navigation, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and voice control embellished with embedded chat GPT are all included. And in other markets, this central monitor's look can be customised with a selection of design themes based around things like Marvel or Star Wars. In the US, Kia offers skins for it based on NBA teams. What else? Well, you sit higher than in most rivals, but on heated front seats that have to do without lumbar support on this base spec Air model. Rear three-quarter vision is slightly compromised by the thick rear C pillars and shallow rear screens, so you're going to need the standard rear sensors and rear view camera. Otherwise, once you've figured out where the gear selector is, you'll find the general ergonomics to be pretty sound, apart from the placement of the central climate screen, which, as on the EV9, is partly obscured by the steering wheel. Fortunately, the only time you'll need to interact with it is to put the demister on. As we've already referenced, this is a very practical space. That lower centre console space we mentioned could easily take something as big as a handbag, and we prefer the simpler upper console storage arrangement of this Air model with its lidded and open stowage areas, separated by this compartmentalising slat. It's a bit disappointing that you have to do without something so currently essential as a wireless phone charging mat with base Air trim, and the door bins are very narrow. But the glove box is big, there are ticket clips in the sun visors, and you get twin USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket on the front bulkhead. Okay, time to take a look in the rear. Here's where the bespoke E-GMP platform of this car ought to help it hugely. If we tell you that Kia's Sportage mid-sized combustion SUV is 20 centimetres longer in body length than this EV3, but has much the same 2,680mm wheelbase length as you get here, it'll give you some idea of just how much difference bespoke EV underpinnings can make to cabin space. And sure enough, once inside, there's more room for knees and legs than you'd get in a combustion model of this size, or in an electric hatch with a combustion compromised platform like Kia's Niro EV. It's a pity the seat base doesn't slide, as it does in a rival Smart #1, for instance, nor does the seat back recline despite a gap between the luggage cover and the seat backs, providing space for it to do so. Still, the flat floor means a middle-seated third occupant could be admitted reasonably comfortably, and there's plenty of space for outer passengers to slide their feet below the seats ahead. Door bins are missing, you only get bottle holders, and you get a couple of USB-C ports back here on the seat backs. There are also overhead reading lights, an armrest with cup holders, seat back pockets, and a central cubby. Let's finish with a look out back. Now, this tailgate isn't power assisted unless you stretch to the very top of the range, but it's light enough to make assistance unnecessary, and it rises to reveal a 460-litre space. The Niro EV's extra 120mm of body length helps it here, hence that model's 495-litre trunk capacity. You probably won't notice the difference though, because this is a supremely usable space, underscored by an adjustable height luggage board floor, which sits above a huge amount of space below the cargo base, which we'd have preferred if Kia had filled with a spare wheel. 6 carry-on suitcases will fit below the load cover, and recessed areas to the left and right will help if you're getting awkward items like pushchairs in. And there's a light on the left and a bag hook on the right. It's a little disappointing though that Kia provides neither a ski hatch or a convenient 40-20-40 seatback split, so if you've 2 rear-seated passengers, longer items like skis will have to go on the roof. Flatten the rear bench and up to 1,250 litres of capacity can be freed up. And that's not everything, because, as you'd expect from a car with a bespoke EV platform, there's further frunk room under the bonnet, though not much of it. Still, this 25-litre space should suffice as a home for the charging leads. As we filmed in spring 2025, EV3 pricing started from around £33,000, a sum that gets you base air spec and the only variant in the lineup to use the smaller 58.3 kilowatt-hour battery with its 270-mile range. Unless you've only earmarked this Kia only for suburban trips though, we're guessing that you're going to need to focus on the larger battery 81.4 kilowatt-hour variants in the lineup, which takes you up to 375 miles, and which you can have from around £36,000 if you're prepared to stick with that base air level of trim, which is what we have here. British customers tend to want a sportier look than this though, and if that's you, then £1,500 more gets you GT line spec with a £43,000 budget, getting you the top GT line S version, which for £900 more can be ordered with a heat pump. This EV3's bigger battery takes it considerably further than Kia's other contender in this segment, the older tech Niro EV, which has a 64.8 kilowatt-hour battery and goes up to 285 miles. Given that and this EV3's faster charging, you'd expect this EV3 would be more expensive. Actually, it's the other way around. At the time of this test, a base Niro EV cost just under £37,500, around £1,300 more than the 81.4 kilowatt-hour EV3 Air model we're trying here. True, the Niro EV offers a little more boot and rear seat space, but it's difficult to see those attributes swaying too many private customers to it over an EV3. But that's an easy battle for this EV3 to win. A far more difficult task will lie in persuading customers to choose it over the existing class leaders in this segment. But pricing and drive range here should make that easier. As we filmed, you'd need around £37,000 to £38,000 for comparable bigger battery versions of the Volvo EX30 and the Skoda Elroq, or around £38,000 to £39,000 for comparable bigger battery versions of the Volkswagen ID3 and the Hyundai Kona Electric, and even more for a Honda ENI1 or a bigger battery Cupra Born, and none of these rivals can match this Kia's EV range. Contenders like the Renault Megane E-Tech, the Mini Countryman Electric, the Vauxhall Astra Electric, the Peugeot E308, the Toyota Urban Cruiser and the Suzuki e-Vitara can only offer a battery size and EV range figure comparable to the base 58.3 kilowatt-hour EV3 model and aren't any cheaper. And if we haven't yet mentioned the compact hatch EV contender you're thinking of, it'll probably either be because it's a slightly smaller car than this Kia, like say a smart #1, or a slightly larger one, such as a Nissan Ariya. So, we can see why you might conclude that an EV3 suits your needs best, in which case you'll need to know about standard spec. This base Air trim level might not look or feel particularly plush, but it actually comes with quite a lot. You can tick off 17-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, LED tail lamps, power folding mirrors, auto headlamps and wipers, all-round parking sensors with a reversing camera, gloss black roof rails, a Thatcham Category 1 alarm, a smart key with a motion sensor, an under-bonnet frunk space, and 7 years of Kia Connect, so you can remotely interact with your EV3. In addition, there's 2 of Kia's latest drive assist systems, Highway Driving Assist 2.0 with hands-on detection, and Smart Cruise Control 2.0 with stop-and-go functionality. Plus, there's intelligent speed limit assist and a speed limiter, so it'll be your own fault if you get a ticket. Inside, there's automatic air conditioning accessible via a 5.3-inch display, heat for the front seats and steering wheel, a 12.3-inch driver display screen for the instruments, an adjustable height luggage board, boot floor, regenerative braking paddle shifters, and Kia's Drive Mode Select driving mode system. To this tally, mid-level GT line trim adds larger 19-inch wheels, GT line exterior styling, LED headlights with a small cube graphic, and adaptive high beam, rear privacy glass, automatic flush door handles, and a digital key. Inside, there's a much nicer quality of trim with GT line interior styling and a 2-tone fabric-wrapped dashboard. You also get alloy pedals, 2-tone artificial leather upholstery, a sliding centre console, customisable ambient lighting, and a wireless phone charger and powered driver's seat adjustment with electric lumbar support. For the real niceties, though, you've to stretch to the top GT line S spec. This gets you a smart powered tailgate and L2L vehicle to load capability with an adapter, so you can power external devices from the car. There's also a head-up display, cooled ventilation for the front seats, heat for the outer rear seats, a 360-degree surround view monitor, a powered sunroof, an interior 3-pin plug socket, and an 8-speaker Harman Kardon premium sound system with centre speaker and subwoofer. Kia also throws in its remote smart parking assist system, allowing you to stand outside your EV3 and park it remotely. And as we said earlier, it's to this level in the range that you have to stretch if you want the option of a heat pump. Across the range, bear in mind that unless you want the only standard paint colour, sunset orange, you'll need to be paying Kia another £625 for one of the premium colours. We've got frost blue here, with 7 paint choices in total, though not all apply to all trim levels. On to safety provision. There's Kia's latest autonomous braking system, Forward Collision Avoidance Assist 2.0, with city, pedestrian, cyclist, junction turning and junction crossing features. And all EV3s also get Lane Keep Assist, Blind Spot Collision Avoidance Assist and Rear Cross Traffic Collision Avoidance Assist, as well as driver attention warning, safe exit warning to stop passengers opening their doors in the face of oncoming vehicles, tyre pressure monitoring, a multi-collision braking system and rear occupant alert. If you want more, then you'll have to stretch to top GT Line S trim, which adds a blind spot view monitor and a parking collision avoidance assist system. There's also electric dynamic torque vectoring control, or EDTVC, to ensure the EV3 transfers its power to the road smoothly and stably. And all the usual airbags connected, of course, to an e-call system. The EV3 is based on much more sophisticated E-GMP architecture than the brand's Niro EV. You might quite reasonably think that the whole point of that would be for this to be the first small electric vehicle to offer the ultra-fast charging 800-volt infrastructure that larger Hyundai Motor Group E-GMP base models helped to pioneer. Disappointingly, that's not the case, but thanks to a new generation battery management system, both standard and long-range models claim a 10 to 80% DC charge time of around half an hour. That's despite rather modest charging speeds, 102 kilowatts for the 58.3 kilowatt hour battery and 128 kilowatts for this 81.4 kilowatt hour version. Full replenishment AC charging from a typical 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box needs 8 hours and 45 minutes for the 54.3 kilowatt hour version, or 12 hours and 30 minutes for this 81.4 kilowatt hour variant. Both batteries are warmed by a clever thermally efficient sheath heater with multiple maps for low and high temperature charges. Kia says that because this enables the battery to self-heat at temperatures down to minus 35 degrees C, charge times are significantly lowered and efficiency-killing precipitation of the battery's lithium-ion cathodes is avoided. There's also a battery conditioning mode that can optimise battery temperature when heading to a fast charging station. This can be manually activated or can work automatically linked to GPS data. We gave you the EV range figures in our driving section: 270 miles for the standard range, 58.3 kilowatt hour variants, and up to 375 miles for this 81.4 kilowatt hour long range model. Though you only get that with the base Air spec we're trying here. The figures between 361 and 367 miles for the various GT line trimmed models you're more likely to want. On this test, we've been getting between 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour and 4.6 miles per kilowatt hour, which equates to anywhere between 270 and 350 miles from a charge. To give you some class perspective, this 81.4 kilowatt hour model's WLTP rated EV range figure is around 20 miles more than you get from top 77 kilowatt hour versions of the VW ID3, Cupra Born or Skoda Elroq. We found that this EV3's mileage range figures are significantly affected by ambient temperatures, which makes it disappointing to find that no version of this Kia has a standard heat pump to preserve driving range in winter months. You can't even pay extra for one unless you stretch to the pricey GT Line S version, which is a pity because the clever 4th generation multi-valve heat pump on offer here is very advanced. It not only draws in ambient heat from outside air to aid the climate system, but also combines this with recovered waste heat from the electric motor, which Kia claims is world first. You'll also need GT Line S trim with this car to get V2L or vehicle to load functionality, allowing you to power external devices from the car's battery, and vehicle to home and vehicle to grid capability, allowing you to return unneeded charge energy for use in your home or back to the national grid. You can monitor your ongoing frugality via an EV section of the centre screen. This gives you a range prediction readout and allows you to monitor how energy is being used and of course set charging times, which you can also do via the Kia Connect app. There's also a plug and charge system you can activate where authorization happens automatically when connecting up at a plug and charge compatible DC charging station. Service intervals are every 2 years or 24,000 miles, whichever comes first. We'd suggest you buy into the available 3-year or 30,000 mile service plan available at point of purchase. A vehicle diagnostics section of the centre screen allows you to oversee maintenance issues. What else? Well, insurance groupings start at 32E for the 58.3 kilowatt hour Air model or 34E for this 81.4 kilowatt hour Air variant. It's Group 35E for the GT Line version and Group 36E for the GT Line S variant. As with all EVs, benefit in kind taxation is super low, rated at 3% as we filmed in the 2025-2026 tax year. And though you'll now have to pay the London congestion charge in your EV and VED car tax, you're still exempt from London ULEZ charges if those apply. Residual value predictions suggest that after 3 years and 36,000 miles, an EV3 will hold on to just over 50% of its original purchase price, which is excellent by class standards, ahead of both the VW ID3 and the Cupra Born. As usual with the Kia, this one comes with a 7-year warranty, the longest available from any brand without servicing requirement caveats, cover that's transferable to future owners. In addition, the EV3's battery is covered by its own 8-year, 100,000 mile warranty to 70% of original capacity. You're never going to be able to create the ideal small electric hatch unless it's designed from the outset only as an EV. And it's taken Kia some time to get round to doing exactly that, but the EV3 was worth the wait. This feels like the kind of cutting-edge product the brand really needs in this segment, and you'll find it better value and longer ranging than most of its rivals. Are there issues? Well, not many. This base Air spec is a little drab. The ADAS camera features can be intrusive, and Kia needs to widen the availability and hopefully standardise its very effective heat pump system. Otherwise, unless you've unrealistic expectations about driving involvement, there's lots to like here. You need to know what you're getting, of course. We're disappointed that this shortened version of the company's advanced E-GMP chassis used here can't accommodate the ultra-rapid 800-volt charging infrastructure you'll find on larger Kia EVs. And not everyone will like this EV3 model's divisively futuristic looks. But if you do, and you're browsing in this segment, we think this is a car you simply can't ignore.